It's a cliche that all actors are self-important, pampered and pretentious. Many movie stars aren't afraid to take the mick out of themselves in fourth-wall breaking comedies or mock documentaries. This list collects some of the greatest performances by actors playing twisted versions of themselves or mocking their public image in thinly veiled fictional characters. I'm Cy for WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 actors who aren't afraid to mock themselves. Number 10. Al Pacino's Dunkachino commercial, Jack and Jill. Al Pacino's late-period career choices have been more than a little dubious. However, one of Al's more questionable movie roles was appearing as himself in the notorious Adam Sandler in drag movie Jack and Jill. This fictional version of Al is being courted by Sandler's commercial director Jack, who wants him to star in a Dunkin' Donuts commercial. Pacino refuses the role, considering himself to still be an artist despite his star being on the wane. His mind changes, however, when he meets Jack's older sister Jill, also Sandler, and falls head over heels for her. His courting of Jill was Pacino in full flow, hamming it up in full great ass mode. The story builds to a genuinely hilarious scene in which Pacino records the Dunkachino commercial. Pacino plays it straight, and for all of Jack and Jill's flaws, it's a brilliant satire of art versus commerce. It's so funny that the scene has been stripped of any context and memed into oblivion on social media. It says a lot for Pacino's career choices that some people believe it to be a genuine advert. However, Al Pacino's self-awareness is on full display throughout Sandler's film, and he's clearly having a ball taking the piss out of himself. Number 9. Malkovich being John Malkovich. Charlie Kaufman and Spike Jonze's prescient satire on celebrity culture is a classic. Presented with a strange portal in floor 7.5 of an office block, everyday people are able to experience the world through the eyes of John Malkovich. They can experience a vicarious thrill from being congratulated on a particular movie, or even cleaning his fridge. Malkovich has later commented that the film talks about "we now lead virtual lives, we live our joys and sorrows and foibles through the lives of the public people. It's about the end of art, because art has to take its cue from life." To his credit, Malkovich gamely embraces the opportunity to play himself, presenting a heightened and pompous version of himself. The most memorable scene in the film is, of course, when Malkovich enters the portal. Inside his own head, he can only see his face on the people around him in a crowded restaurant. It's a hilarious visual gag on the idea of the self-obsession we perceive celebrities to have, while also being deeply unnerving. Number 8. Ryan Gosling. From brooding hard man to slapstick goofball, The Nice Guys. In the first half of the 2010s, Ryan Gosling had been carving out a rewarding career as stoic, brooding, violent men. From Drive to The Place Beyond the Pines and Only God Forgives, he was serious to the point of risking being po-faced. While films like Crazy Stupid Love showcased his charisma, it wasn't until The Nice Guys that Gosling demonstrated his willingness to play the idiot. The Nice Guys is a classic Shane Black buddy movie, pairing Gosling's slightly goofy and inept private detective with Russell Crowe's brusque and macho one. Sporting an arm in plaster throughout, Gosling as Holland March is the classic comic relief character in a Shane Black double act. It's a role that showcases Gosling's gift for slapstick comedy, especially in the brilliant toilet cubicle scene where he's trying to defend himself from both crow and stray cigarette ash. It felt like a departure for Gosling, who is clearly looking for something different after a string of stoic and silent men, especially as March never seems to stop talking. It's a great comedic turn, and despite being released in the same year as La La Land, Gosling's best performance of 2016. Number 7. Coogan is a cunt, says Dad. The Trip. Steve Coogan's role as himself in all 4 series of The Trip feels more honest and more self-lacerating as anything in his autobiography of a few years ago. The Steve Coogan of The Trip is a pretentious artist who's ashamed of his past in comedy characters and impressions, but he's also keenly aware of how good he is at it. It's how his dining companion Rob Brydon always convinces Coogan to play along with their regular improvised impressions. It's purely based on competitiveness. Coogan can't bear to let Brydon do an inferior impression, so attempts to tutor him. Similarly, he's constantly put out by Rob's relative successes in family life and his career against his own failures. Coogan, Brydon and director Michael Winterbottom mine a rich seam of self-loathing and regret throughout the series. It's possibly best exemplified by the Coogan's a cunt scene from Series 1, a dream Coogan has of being asked for an autograph by a fan who then presents him with a scathing newspaper headline from Coogan's own dad. It doesn't get more raw or self-lacerating than that. Number 6. Ed Norton knows he's a nightmare to work with. Birdman. Alejandro González Iñárritu's Birdman is of course an incredibly meta movie. Michael Keaton plays an actor best known for playing a caped crusader, but not that one. In an attempt to be taken seriously, Keaton's Regan Thompson is making his Broadway debut, writing, directing and starring in an adaptation of What We Talk About When We Talk About Love. The voice of Birdman inside his head constantly chides him about returning to commercial cinema where he belongs. However, it's not Keaton whose role is the most self-mocking. That credit goes to Ed Norton as Thompson's fellow actor Mike Shiner. Shiner is an absolute nightmare to work with, self-absorbed, pretentious and offering his own unwanted advice to Thompson as director. If Hollywood gossip is to be believed, then Norton's role as Mike isn't far removed from the truth. The story goes that Norton considerably rewrote his Incredible Hulk movie, much to the chagrin of Marvel execs who recast the character with Mark Ruffalo. He also considerably re-edited American History X, which so enraged director Tony Kaye that he unsuccessfully demanded his credit be replaced with Humpty Dumpty, and took out various ads in trade publications which ripped into Norton. At least through Mike Shiner, Norton can laugh about it all now. Number 5. Jason Statham's face-off machine, Spy. Jason Statham's role in Spy brilliantly subverts the action movies that the actor is best known for. In films like The Transporter or Safe, Statham usually plays gruff action men with hearts of gold. The situations are often ridiculous, but in Statham's gritty portrayals he usually succeeds in selling them to an audience. In Spy, he turned this on its head. As an actor, Statham clearly knows the way to sell the ridiculousness of Feig's spy thriller spoof is to play it completely straight. In grounding the film through his performance, the jokes about face-off machines and silly spy gadgets soar. The man is clearly an idiot, a blunt instrument who's just as out of his depth as Melissa McCarthy's character. In setting himself up so brilliantly, Statham cemented his comic chops. They'd always been there from as far back as Guy Ritchie's Snatch, but here he was being genuinely funny in a Hollywood comedy. It's clear that this sense of humour informed his Shaw character's transition from Fast and Furious villain to The Rock's comic foil in the Hobbs and Shaw movie. Number 4. Star Trek's cast take aim at Shatner, Futurama. Futurama's Star Trek cast reunion is a perfect send-up of fan culture, with the original cast becoming prisoners of an alien superfan who has returned them to their youthful selves. When the cast ponder that maybe they should stay on the planet and enjoy their eternal life, they quickly change their minds when Fry reminds them that they'd have to spend eternity with one Star Trek obsessive. As much as Where No Fan Has Gone Before is an affectionate swipe at the fans, it's also full of self-referential jibes at the actors themselves, more specifically Shatner, who gets numerous jokes from his fellow castmates and the Futurama writers' room. For example, Shatner, who had previously turned down The Simpsons, delivers the line, "When I directed Star Trek V, I got a magnificent performance out of me because I respected me so much," with just the right balance of self-delusion and self-awareness. The episode even brings up the long-running Takai-Shatner feud when Takai chastises Shatner for never getting to know him. Meanwhile, Uhura mentions kissing Shatner as the most heroic thing she's done, and it's clear that she means it for reasons other than being one of the first interracial kisses on television. Number 3. Kate Winslet's foul-mouthed Oscar cynicism, Extras. Ricky Gervais's Extras was often brilliant at sending up actors and subverting their public image. Who could forget Daniel Radcliffe trying to be taken seriously as a sexual being, or British hardman Ross Kemp showing himself up for knowing absolutely nothing about the SAS or fighting. One of the standout performances in the series was Kate Winslet, playing herself as an embittered awards also-ran. Meeting Gervais' Andy Millman on the set of her latest film, she confides in him that she's desperate to win an Oscar. Outlining in graphic detail the sorts of roles that an Academy go for, Winslet hopes that her performance as a nun in a Holocaust movie will give her Oscar gold. It's a brilliant subversion of the worthiness that often comes from promoting Oscar movies, showing actors' choices to instead be craven attempts to win awards rather than to raise awareness of historical horrors or social injustice. Winslet throws herself into the role, cigarette in hand, and appears to be having a great time. Number 2. Bruce Campbell plays a B-movie washout. My Name is Bruce. Bruce Campbell is excellent as himself in what is essentially a horror movie spin on the Three Amigos or Galaxy Quest. A down-and-out washed-up actor best known for his work on the Evil Dead films, Campbell has to team up with a young horror fan to save his town from demonic creatures. My Name is Bruce is appropriately cheap and schlocky, but is also incredibly funny. It's got some good gags about fan culture and the signing circuit, while also features some suitably gnarly gore. Campbell's real-life career has gone better than the one in the film, but as evidenced by his sardonic Q&A tours and biographies, he knows exactly what his place in the culture is. Interestingly, this version of Campbell influences the older and washed-up Ash in the Evil Dead follow-up series Ash vs. Evil Dead. Number 1. Nicolas Cage, the human meme, the unbearable weight of massive talent. Nicolas Cage's financial struggles have been well documented, but while some actors would perhaps talk this down, Cage has signed on to a whole movie about them. In The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, Cage is facing financial difficulty and agrees to spy on a wealthy fan who's asked him to appear at his birthday party. Hearing of this, the CIA recruit Cage to keep his eye on the billionaire Harvey, who is part of a violent criminal cartel. The script is full of references to Cage movies, both embracing and striving to move past how much of a meme Cage has become in recent years, in throwing himself so willingly into playing multiple versions of himself, including a de-aged version who, like Birdman, tells Cage to act more like Nicolas Cage, and self-referentially highlighting his various tics and quirks. The actor shows that he has a sense of humour about himself and his work. Arguably, Cage has been doing this sort of shtick for years, before even Face Off, and this film is the end result. What did you think of this list? Hit up the comments below with your opinions. I've been Cy from WhatCulture.com, and have a good week.